Hello again. Welcome back. This is our second TWLOHA at Home Worth Living For Instagram Live of the day. We were on a couple hours ago with Andy Slavitt. You can still catch that conversation on our IGTV. But for now, we are glad that you're here for this one. My name is Jamie Tworkowski. I'm the founder of To Write Love on Her Arms, coming to you from my house in East Nashville, Tennessee. I always say this, but we love seeing where you are. So if you want to share where you are, I know it's 3 o'clock here, Central Time, 4 o'clock on the East Coast. Might be nighttime in the UK, but we love seeing and hearing from you, where you are, how you're doing. We hope you're doing well. We've been doing these for a while now, because this is obviously such a strange, difficult year for many people. And we wanted to show up in the best ways that we can to encourage people, to let people know they're not alone. And so we started doing these TWLOHA at Home Instagram Lives a few months back. We took a break in July and then fired them back up last month. And we're doing it as we make our way to September 10th. World Suicide Prevention Day. We're in the middle of our biggest campaign of the year, which is our Worth Living For World Suicide Prevention Day campaign. Every year we build a campaign around a statement, a phrase, an idea that has resonated with us. These words, worth living for, come from a poem written and performed by our friend Levi the poet. And so we are inviting people to wrestle with these words and to think about what makes life worth living, what things are worth living for, to finish the sentence, I'm living for. And we have two great guests for you this afternoon. Joél Leon and Kayla Stoecklein are both going to be with us. Joél is up first. I'm going to share a few announcements before we bring him on. But again, thank you for being here with us, and we hope over the next hour you can be encouraged. You can kind of sit back, relax. Hopefully you enjoy this conversation. Hopefully you're inspired. And I want to talk a little bit about the campaign we're in the middle of. Again, it's our Worth Living For campaign. You can learn more at worthlivingfor.com, which reminds me I have to pin a comment. See, these announcements are for me as well. I got to pin a comment. This is the hardest part of my job, is pinning the comment. Okay. Takes a while. Pin the comment. So there you have it. That's the website. If you want to learn more about this campaign, how to donate, how to become a fundraiser, how to order the pack that includes the t-shirt that I have on, you can learn all of those answers at worthlivingfor.com. Our team is here as well. So I'm obviously on the TWLOHA account, but we have a TWLOHA team account. They will be answering questions, kind of filling in the gaps. So look for their comments. Let's see. If you have a question for Joél or Kayla, please use the question box at the bottom of the screen. There's a little question mark icon. We love your comments throughout, but if you have a specific question, please use that box. Let's see. Free worldwide shipping. Right now, today, until midnight Eastern, on orders of $25 or more, which means if you have not yet ordered your World Suicide Prevention Day pack, it's a great time to do it. Again, free shipping anywhere in the world if you spend $25. Every year we make a video. We invite you to be a part of it. We invite you to submit. You can learn more about that, worthlivingfor.com. Today is the deadline. WSPD, World Suicide Prevention Day, WSPD at TWLOHA.com is where you submit your video. And again, you can learn more about that on the campaign website. We have another live happening not on Instagram, but Facebook this Thursday. We've been going live there every Thursday afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern. Nzinga Harrison from the In Recovery podcast, Heather Monroe of Newport Academy. We are finishing up a $10,000 matching grant that came from Newport Academy. We are grateful to them. Still some money left, so your donations will be doubled right now. And Michelle Giordano from the Trevor Project. These folks will be having a conversation focused on understanding suicide. Every single week, every Thursday, there's a different topic that we focus on. So this week, it's understanding suicide. A great place to start leading up to that conversation is yesterday's Instagram post on our account where we asked the question, what do you wish people understood about suicide? We got so many great comments, and we would love for you to read those, to spend some time with those. Fundraising, trying to raise $250,000. All of that money will be used to remove financial barriers for people to get the help that they need and deserve. Talking about professional help. Specifically, we are hoping to provide 3,500 counseling sessions and 45,000 searches using the Find Help tool on our website, TWLOHA.com. If you've never seen or used our tool, you can simply come to our site, click on Find Help, enter your zip code, narrow down your search using some filters, and essentially instantly connect with a list of local mental health resources in your area that are specific to your needs, whether that's for you or someone you care about. We're proud of this tool. We've been able to share it with thousands of people. And so part of this campaign, part of what it's going to do is help us continue to offer that service. We are currently right around $65,000 raised, on our way to $250,000. Again, we're finishing up a $10,000 matching grant, so it's a great time to donate. And with that, I'm going to bring on Joél. Let's see. Joél, are you out there, my man? If you will send a request, I will say yes. I see some familiar faces. Joél. My friend Joél. I know he's out there. Kayla's waiting. Kayla's on time. Let's see. Chad, can you text Joél? Let's see. All right, so we're bringing him on. Did you guys get to share where you're tuning in from? Did you guys get to say where in the world you are? It's pretty cool. We always see people all across the U.S., around the world. This is also me filling some time. Joél is going to be with us any minute. But again, it's the biggest time of year for us. Someone is watching from Berlin, Wisconsin, Virginia. It's cool to see these start to show up. Oklahoma. Now it's simply me reading to you. Victoria. I believe that's Canada, right? Whoa, you guys are everywhere. Germany, Wisconsin again, Arizona, Houston, Texas, another Houston back to back. So thank you guys for putting other things on pause so that you could show up for this conversation. Joél is a busy man. He's wrapping up a call. Interesting. What if I call an audible and start with Kayla? I hope that's okay. Kayla, I hope that's okay with you. We're going to come to you. Let's see. We're going to bring on Kayla. We're doing our best. That's what this year is about. We are attempting to connect. The TWLOHA team is in Florida. Hi. Sorry. Is this okay?
You're good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? We've had two guests that are clearly very busy, important people and had other things going on. This is also like a fun humble brag, but my first guest, Andy Slavitt, I did a pre-call. We had like a pre-call scheduled, and he had to cut it short to be on television with Dr. Fauci.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I thought that was so cool. I felt cool by association.
Yeah.
So thank you for being available and not having to be on TV right now. But we will talk about when you have to be on TV soon. But we'll get to that. For people who don't know you, do you mind just introducing yourself? Who are you? Where are you? What does life look like?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California. I have 3 young boys, so we're in the middle of virtual learning and it's wild. They're 4, 6, and 8. So super busy, wild boys. They're awesome. And I went back to school too. So I'm doing virtual learning 2, 3 nights a week, and we're just living life out here.
That you guys have a lot of school.
Got a lot of school going on. Yeah.
And I know you have a book coming out a week from today. which is exciting. But I know this book is not only exciting. This is not an easy story, and so I wonder if you could share just sort of how you relate to suicide prevention, because I know it's deeply personal.
Yeah. Yeah, so my book's called Fear Gone Wild, a story of mental illness, suicide, and hope through loss, and it releases on the 8th. And it's just my story about 2 years ago. Last week it was 2 years. My husband, Andrew, who was the lead pastor of our church, love of my life, he died by suicide. And really, it was a really fast journey with mental health and mental illness. He was diagnosed with depression in April of 2018 and then died in August of 2018. So it was really quick, really fast. His suicide was shocking. We really, truly never saw it coming. We thought he was getting better. He had returned to work. We were doing all the right things we knew to do to get him better. He was seeing a psychiatrist, he was taking medication, we were seeing a therapist for 2 hours every week. I mean, he was taking time off work. We were really doing everything we knew to do to get him better. Yet he still died by suicide. And so these last 2 years, I've really become a mental health advocate, didn't ask for it, kind of just happened through sharing our story and just being vulnerable and raw with my grief and my pain. And my whole heart is just changing the way that we view suicide, changing the language surrounding suicide, changing the way that we create space for people that are struggling with depression and anxiety, changing the way we have conversations with people that are struggling with suicidal ideation. So that's kind of what my life has looked like, and raising these three boys and walking them through grief. And I just have a huge heart for saving lives and breaking the stigma, and also bridging the gap between mental health and ministry.
Mm. So what I know, like my introduction, probably like a lot of people to you, was Instagram and learning your story, but also seeing that you were so willing to share your grief and to let people into the process of you grieving and remembering and honoring your husband, and also letting people sort of come along as you moved forward in life. And I know it's a broad question, but I wonder what has that balance been like of grieving while choosing to share?
Mhm. The sharing part for me has been like a natural outpouring of just part of my journey. It's just been this natural outpouring of my heart. Our story went viral right away, and so right away I was kind of thrust into the spotlight, and all of a sudden had a big following on social media like overnight. Our story was the sad story on the internet, and just 3 days after he passed away, I wrote him this letter, and it was really that letter that like went viral. And I saw the outcome of that letter. So what inspired me to keep writing and keep sharing and keep posting, and really to write this book too, was seeing the response from the first letter that I wrote just 3 days after he passed away. Getting messages from people like, your husband's death saved my life. Your public grief saved my life. Your story is the reason I called my husband's therapist and told them how bad it really was. The way that you talked about suicide helped me talk about suicide with my teenage daughter. Like, so many stories were pouring in. People stopping me at drop off at the school. Like, my husband checked himself into rehab this morning because he read the letter that you wrote, that you posted to your blog. And so I could just see that this was so much bigger than me, and I didn't want to get in the way of what God could do through this tragedy. And so I just have been I feel like my social media is like this living, breathing journal. Like, it's sad. I try to like not be like sad all the time, but it's just like really raw. So when I am in the middle of an emotion, or I feel something heavy on my heart to share, or I think that the way that I'm walking through pain and grief and loss and things that I'm learning about mental health, if I think that'll be helpful, then I share a little something. There's like no strategy. It's just like whatever I'm learning that week and whatever God's put on my heart that week.
What has that balance been like in terms of, I feel like everyone in 2020 has to wrestle, or a lot of us wrestle with having a healthy relationship with social media. And you've obviously found so much purpose. You're encouraging people, you're providing hope, you're quite literally saving lives. But how do you figure out how to do that in a way that's healthy for you?
Yes, I think when I reach for the phone and reach for a post with tears in my eyes, that's a huge like red flag that I need to like stop. And instead of posting something, I need to go call somebody. I think sometimes social media can be an outlet for our pain and our grief, which is great because it can help other people. But I think for me, the learning part has been also allowing other people in. So not just like publicly letting people in, but also privately letting people in and making sure that before I post that thing, I'm reaching for my phone and I'm texting a friend or calling a friend or texting my therapist and having those intimate private conversations before I share my heart publicly.
Yeah. As much as you are comfortable sharing, I wonder, like, aside from social media, just what has been helpful to your healing over the last couple years?
Walking straight through head on towards the pain. I would say that's been the most helpful thing for me is not trying to shy away, not trying to run away, not trying to numb myself out from it, like really embracing the pain and welcoming the pain and welcoming the emotions and knowing that all of that is for my healing and that the only way to heal is to walk through it. I can't go around it. I can't go over it. I can't go under it. I literally just have to walk through it. And through it is hard. Through it is painful. Like it's so unbelievably painful. And I myself, through these last few years, have struggled with suicidal thoughts. Like I feel like I have had a new empathy and compassion for my husband and what he was facing in his suicidal ideation and ultimately dying by suicide. I feel like I have this new empathy for him, having now experienced my own overwhelming pain where sometimes death seems like the only way out of that overwhelming pain. But what I've learned these last few years is that living with the pain is possible, that it is possible to have this huge, overwhelming pain that you wish would just go away but choose to live anyway. It's possible to build a beautiful life around that pain and to find a way to have a purpose in that pain as well. So that's really been my journey these last few years.
Thank you for sharing that. You alluded to, when you have tears in your eyes, reaching out to another person, and I wonder how important has it been to find a support system? Do you feel like you already had that, or has that looked different than you imagined?
My life before Andrew died was very private. Andrew was a very private person. He was the lead pastor of our church, and so he was known. We were known publicly in our community, but we were very private. And so after he passed away and our story went public, I feel like my relationships with my close friends just took a deep dive, like intimate. I had friends that would lay on the floor and weep with me. I had friends that would come over in the middle of the night or pick up the phone when I call. I just feel like my relationships with people got so deep so fast because we walked through this tragedy together. I'll never forget that first week that he passed away. I was trying to get through bedtime. It must have been the second week because I waited a week to tell my kids. So it was the second week, and I was getting through bedtime, and I finally got my kids to go to bed, and I had a friend over. And I walked out, and she was sitting on my little steps that go down into my living room. And I walked out, and I just sat next to her, and she just held me, and we just wept. And that's the with you. You know, we say that to people when you're going through something like, hey, I'm with you. And
Yeah.
like, such a picture of with you. Like, she was holding me, she was crying with me, she was just as heartbroken as I was heartbroken, and she was truly sharing in the pain with me. And so I think allowing people to literally carry the weight and share in the pain with me because it is so heavy and I can't carry it on my own.
Hmm. I know it's hard to even fathom what it's been like for you to grieve and to move forward and to keep living, after losing your husband in this way. And I wonder what have you learned about loving three little boys, like who are so young, and when I imagine there's been so many moments when you're not sure what's appropriate or what they can, the right way to word something. And I wonder what you've learned through that process.
Andrew is part of our life. Like his loss is part of our life. Andrew is such a huge part of my life. They talk about their dad every single day. If they ask to see pictures or videos, I'll pull them out right away. If they ask to go to the cemetery, I'll take them. I'll never forget my son Smith. It was Mother's Day, 2019, so the very first Mother's Day after Andrew passed away. And I went to his school and they did this little Mother's Day makeover where all the moms come and the kids like up on the mom, do their hair, and it's like super funny. They have like huge blush and like mascara
Yeah.
everywhere. And they had these little fill in the blanks, like those cute little, like they fill in the blanks for Mother's Day. And one of the lines on his fill in the blanks said, I love it when my mom takes me to the cemetery and takes me to Disneyland. Literally the saddest place on earth and the happiest place on earth in the same sentence. And that's our reality. That's our life. It's one foot and the happiest place on earth after COVID. So hopefully we get to go back to Disneyland, and the other foot at the cemetery. Like loss is a huge part of our life. Talking about death is a huge part of our life. Grieving is a huge part of our life. And it's going to be a conversation that I continue to have with them as they grow and mature.
Hmm. What about, and then this is another broad one, but what else do you feel like you've learned in the last couple of years?
I feel like loss has expanded the way that I see everything. It's expanded the way that I see spirituality and the way that I see God and the way I walk with God every day. It's expanded the way that I see other people. I feel like now that I've walked through pain and I know what it's like to be carrying pain around every day, it's made me, I feel like, more aware that everybody has pain and that we truly have no idea what it's like to walk in anybody else's shoes but our own. And so it's given me more empathy and compassion for the person that's like honking at me, in the parking lot at the grocery store, the frustrated person at Starbucks or whatever. I'm like, man, they must have a lot of pain. I feel
Yeah.
like a perspective of like we all carry pain, and even myself, like I'm walking around Trader Joe's and like no one would know, no one would know what I've gone through, no one would know the pain that I'm carrying, and all of us have that to some capacity or another. And so I feel like it's just opened my eyes to see the world differently, to love people differently, to interact with even strangers on a day-to-day basis differently. I describe it as even though the loss is like so bleak and it's so black and white for a while, that first, it's like life loses its color for a while. I feel like now, 2 years later, like life is even more colorful than it was before Andrew died, because death has changed the way I see and appreciate everything.
Hmm.
I think life really is a gift and life really is short, and all it takes is me standing at the cemetery staring at my husband's headstone to realize how short life is.
Yeah, that's so powerful. We throw around the word community, and I think it's incredibly powerful in specific to the world of recovery and mental health. I mean, maybe the first example that comes to mind is the 12-step community and the incredible relationships and friendships that are found there. And even following you from a distance, I feel like you've built relationships with people who have lost loved ones to suicide. And I wonder what that's been like and how important that has been for you.
It's such an isolating journey. I think oftentimes, I think this is changing, but I think oftentimes when somebody dies by suicide, we shy away from even saying that word. And it's like this mystery of trying to figure out, was it suicide or what happened? And oftentimes we just don't want to say it because it's covered in shame, it's covered in confusion, it's covered in misunderstanding. And so I think that there is this group of people that have lost someone to suicide and don't feel like they're allowed to talk about it, even with their own family. And so I think me being so open and honest about it and willing to say the word, like the word is now a regular part of my vocabulary. I think that has given other people permission to also say the word and to just be able to hold space for what that means and what kind of loss that is. It is such a different kind of grief and such a different kind of loss. And I think the main difference is knowing that the person who died like truly didn't want to die. Like when somebody dies by suicide, all they're trying to do is escape that pain. Like they don't want to die. They're just trying to escape that pain. And so it's so hard to grapple with. Those first few months after he passed away, it would all replay in my mind. The events leading up to his death would replay over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I would just try to save him. In my mind, I would try to save him.
Mm.
And there's so many regrets. There's a sea of regrets. And I think oftentimes we can get lost in that sea of regrets in our grief journey. And so it's been really cool to see how even social media and my social media has created that safe space for people to feel like they're not alone in their grief journey, and they're not alone in their struggles and their pain and their loss, and that there's other people that are also experiencing the same deep pain and confusion and loss that comes with suicide.
Yeah. What is your, this is a leading question, and it's one I've been asked over the years, but I feel like it's even more appropriate for you. But what is your hope for the church with regards to addressing mental health and even specifically suicide?
Yeah. I think the church is doing a lot better at this. I think there's still a long way to go. But even from when my husband was first starting to talk about it a few years ago, I feel like the church has grown in understanding and creating more safe spaces for people. But I think continuing to see mental illness as a real physical illness, and that it's not a sin issue. It doesn't mean that you don't have enough faith. It doesn't mean you're not spending enough time in the Word. It doesn't mean you don't have a relationship with God. Like, it is not a spiritual thing. It is a physical thing. And I think just understanding that and seeing the illness just as serious as something like cancer, and caring for the person just like you would care for somebody with cancer. And I think the church is doing a better job at that, but I think we all have a long way to go in just the breaking down the stigma surrounding mental health.
Mm. That's such a good answer. Thank you for that. Um, I wonder if you could share a little bit about the process. Like, when did you know or decide, hey, I want to write a book? And then obviously seeing that through is a huge thing. And then what is your hope? You know, it's coming out a week from today, and I wonder what is your hope as this huge part of your story makes its way out into the world?
I couldn't escape it. It honestly, like, I wrote that letter 3 days after. I kept writing stuff. We have a family blog called God's Got This, and I just kept blogging and kept writing and kept sharing. And I was getting approached by publishing companies and agents and authors, and it was really like coming at me from all angles, and doors just started opening. And so I felt like, for me, it was an obedience thing. For me, it was like being obedient to God, being obedient to the story, allowing God to get every last drop of good that He could out of this horrific tragedy. And I knew that it would help people. If it saved one life, then it was worth it for me. And then also for my kids, like, for them when they're older, to be able to have a book that not only shares what happened to their dad, but also gives them an inside look into their parents' love story. Like, our love stories in the book, like how we met, and like you could just feel the love and see the love throughout the book. And so my heart and hope is that when they're older, we can read it together, or they can listen to me read it to them on the audiobook. But it'll be such a special gift to them. But really, it's been a huge part of my own healing. Like, it's really selfish, because it's really a huge part of my own healing journey was writing. Like, writing has been so therapeutic for me since the very beginning. Journaling, sharing on the blog, and then now the book. I would sit and type and weep, just as many tears as there are words in the book. And it was incredibly healing and such a big part of my healing journey these last few years. I wouldn't be where I am today had I not written that book.
Yeah, that's amazing. We talk about some of what's happening around the release. I know you said you're doing a bunch of podcasts. I know there's a really exciting TV thing. So I wonder what the next couple weeks look like for you.
Yeah, a million podcasts. I'm having conversations like this, like, so often. I had two this morning. But yeah, getting to share Andrew, getting to share a story, getting to talk about mental health, getting to continue to break the stigma. And World Suicide Prevention Week is next week. And, I really wanted this book to come out that week. And so, yeah, there are some TV opportunities to share a story nationwide too, which I'm super excited about. And
Be specific. Good morning, America.
America, really cool. Yeah, such a beautiful opportunity for like a first time author to, and it's a really big deal for any kind of, especially Christian author, to get an opportunity for an interview.
And that's Tuesday, next Tuesday morning, right?
Yeah, Tuesday morning.
Okay.
Wild.
You
Yeah.
wake up early that day, huh?
Yeah. The kids are going to spend the night at the sitter's house. So I'll get up and get ready and do
We
it.
all
Yeah.
gotta tune in for that. No, keep going. I cut you off.
No, you're good. Yeah, just lots of interviews and just keep sharing our story and this book is just an extension of that. Yeah. It's such a weird time with COVID. It's such a weird time to launch a book during COVID, so it's all like virtual
Yeah.
stuff. I'm having a conversation with Julie Wilson on the 10th too, who also lost her husband to suicide, like this kind of Instagram live conversation that'll be really good.
Okay, yeah. I feel like I've noticed this in posts of yours, and I feel like I heard it again when we talked earlier that um, there's sort of maybe going to be a boundary after this book, like that life might look different. Like you need to honor this and share this, and then sort of move ahead. And I don't know if I'm even accurate or making sense, but I wonder if you could talk about life beyond this book.
Yeah, I feel like these last 2 years I have been so in it. I've been sharing my story. I stepped on a stage and shared my story for the first time publicly like that at a big Christian conference out here called Catalyst, just 6 months after he passed away. And so I was handed this microphone right away. And yeah, I feel like oftentimes they tell authors be prepared to talk about your book for 2 years, but I feel like I've done that for 2 years before the book came out or is coming out. And so I'm excited for what's next. Me and my boys are moving down to the ocean, and I really feel like we're entering this new season. That's a fresh start for us, even new city. I'm started school, so new school. It'll be a new school for my kids, and just a new place to make new memories. And I feel like I have done a really good job of honoring Andrew and honoring the story and honoring our pain and spending our time here doing that. And I think it'll always be a part of my life. It'll always be a part of my story. Andrew will always be a part of me, and I'll always carry this survivor of suicide loss title. Um, but I'm excited for the next book that's going to come or the next thing I'm going to do, and I don't plan on staying in this spot forever.
Last question. We've been asking everyone. Did you get your shirt yet, by the way?
I didn't get a shirt yet. I want one. Those are
Okay,
cool.
on the way. And if it's not, we'll make it on the way. But
Perfect.
we're asking everyone how they relate to these words and specifically to finish the sentence, I'm living for.
Yeah. I would say I'm living for my kids. I'm living for my future. I'm living for the person that feels alone. I'm living for the person that's struggling with suicidal thoughts. Yeah, all of that. Mostly for my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've kept me going.
That's so. Wait, what was the last bit?
So they've kept me going. Those
Yeah.
boys. Yeah, they've made me get out of bed every morning. I've had no choice. My life has kept going, and I haven't had a choice. I think it's been really good for my healing that I've had to get out of bed
Yeah.
every.
Uh, I feel like I've had this moment. I think a lot of people have had this moment where I read a new post of yours and I am kind of just so moved and just say some version of, hey, you're amazing, thank you. So I want to take this opportunity to say you're amazing and thank you. Thank you for choosing to share, which you didn't have to. Thank you that you keep showing up and sharing the hardest thing you've ever been through in hopes that other people will stay alive. And I'm excited for your book. I'm excited for what comes after the book, and just wanted to say thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to know you and honored to partner with you in just this mission to help people. Yeah,
Yeah, likewise. Hey, one more time, will you tell people the title of your book and when it comes out?
it's called Fear Gone Wild, a story of mental illness, suicide, and hope through loss, and it releases September 8th.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kayla.
Amy, see ya.
Bye. Oh, Kayla, thank you so much. She is such a special lady. Honored to talk to her. We all have to watch Good Morning America 1 week from today. She's going to be on, and her book comes out that day as well, a week from today, September 8th. Super honored to know her even a little bit and to talk to her now. We're going to bring on Joél. Dude,
Hey man, what's going on, brother?
I don't think I had more of a beard than you last time.
You you know, I knew I was getting prepared for this moment. And for me, I wanted to celebrate the beauty that is you and let my I didn't want my beard
Yeah,
overshadowing. You
I'm
know what
gonna I'm gonna return to the world of scruff soon, but I'm going for it. I
I mean?
guess maybe I like campaign beard. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. It's like I'm in the trenches.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Man, how are you doing? It's good to see you.
brother, likewise, man. It's like I see your face and it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Thanks. I'm
I,
I'm
I
I'm good.
take this as a compliment that I asked if you wanted to do a call earlier to kind of like prep, and you were comfortable enough that you're like, man, I think we're good. And you had other stuff going on, but that made me feel good.
Yeah, man. Like and not for nothing. I had the opportunity to kind of sit in on this conversation with you and Kayla, and her story is so powerful, you know. And she mentioned something about expansion and like in response to one of your questions. But I think what's important to also acknowledge is the way you create space. I think listening is like a very I think it seems to be more of a thing that we're not underrating, but it tends to be an underrated thing. Um, I think, yeah, I think that was just handled marvelously by you both.
Oh man, she's a special. I'm I don't know her that well, but I'm honored to know her a little bit, and
Yeah,
glad
word,
we
word.
glad we have her on. I didn't look it up. I guess it's been a couple months since we did this on Instagram.
Yeah, yeah. I went literally about a couple. I want to say because we're in September now,
Yep.
so July. Yeah, like I want to say like July. That's how I count like this.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. So, a very reasonable place to start. What has life looked like since we last spoke?
Um, I think I'm gonna steal a word from Kayla. I think expansion is a really it's a really good phrase. I um, slow is another word. Like I've been really, and I think last time we spoke, like I've been really busy, especially during the pandemic, especially during the uprisings and the protests. Like I felt like a lot of the work I was being called to do had been magnified because of the moment. And I think with that, I recognized for me that there was an opportunity to shift gears internally to like be present for the work, but then maybe kind of slow down. And
Mm,
so I was like less responsive to email and not feeling bad about it. Being very cognizant of what I was saying yes to,
mm,
and like okay, because I feel like for this is probably the first time in my life this year where everything I've said yes to and almost every opportunity that's come to me has been a thing that's spoken directly to my spirit and like the work that I want to do and something that's grounded in my purpose. But I think for me it's been about recently about enjoying the trying to enjoy actually trying to enjoy the lack of things happening, like me enjoying not actually doing, you know, and really leaning into that, like being home with the family. I mean, we're all home, but home with the family and that just being part of the thing outside of the work stuff, like more trying to find more balance too, I think. So it's been all that. It's been expanding, it's been constricting, it's growth, but then also balance. It's been a lot of those things, I
yeah.
think.
Maybe I'll back up for people that don't know your work. Um,
Yeah.
what have you been saying yes to, and why?
You know, so I had a therapy session yesterday and really impactful because I think I've been my general mission statement, especially this year, my purpose has really been rooted in using my creative practice in order to dismantle and deconstruct systems that oppress marginalized communities, right? So using my art, my poetry, my emceeing, whatever I'm going to be doing, whatever medium I'm going to be showing up in the space I'm going to be showing up in, is it's about liberation for my community. You know. By the way, everyone, I'm Joél. Hi. I tell stories to Black people, and that's kind of what I think. That's where the work has been rooted, and so a lot of the things that have been coming to me have been like even us having conversations, which I've been so fortunate to have with you. It's been about healing. It's been about mental health. It's been about race. It's been about masculinity. It's been about art. Like that's my shit. That's my wheelhouse. Like I'll talk about all those things till I'm blue in the face. Um, and so that's where a lot of the work, actually all of the work, I want to say, has leaned and laddered up to, from the top of 2020 up until now.
What about like recent weeks, and
Yeah.
maybe I think last time we touched on what's been working, what's been not working as it relates to your mental health and self-care, as much as you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think you know the ego is funny, and I mean I'll go right back to therapy yesterday. Like part of what I've been trying to work through is there's a certain amount of attention that is required to do my work, right? Like jumping on an IG live, doing a podcast, being on like a Zoom call panel-esque entity in order to get the message across to like this is how we heal community. This is how we show up together as community. This is how we find communion. This is why Black Lives matter. This is why, right?
Yeah.
And it's so like there's a lot of work I need to do in order to be visible. And the work for me has been making sure that I'm not attaching ego to that attention. Like, Kayla, like you and Kayla having this conversation about social media, and it's like, you're going through Instagram to see how many likes you got on this post as compared to this post, how many views, are people viewing it? Are like, did I get chosen for this award, this
Yeah.
platform? Why didn't I get chosen for this award, this platform? Being excited for being chosen for this thing, and then that thing happening, and then there's
Yeah.
the down of okay, what's next? Ego. So for me, recently that's been a lot of the work, me trying to make sure that my purpose is continuously rooted in that work, but of showing up for my community. But then also something I've been, and honestly something I think I've struggled with, and I didn't necessarily recognize it was a struggle, but really looking at the why,
Mm.
the why I show up the way that I do. And is that from like, I'm a rape survivor, for like childhood sexual trauma, like the suicidal ideations, like are those the things that have called me to do the work? Or, like for me it's been right now, it's really about unpacking the why of my purpose. And so making sure that everything kind of works in unison and in tandem. And I think that's kind of been the tension point for me that I'm kind of trying to look dead in the mirror at right now, really.
Yeah. This is maybe random, but I just thought of it. Do you deal with haters? Do you deal with trolls? Do you deal with people that don't agree? And
Mm.
how do you deal with them?
It's funny because I don't deal with them. They show up. I generally don't deal with them. And I'm such a strong advocate for like, I'll get, man, like Jamie, I'll post an essay. Like I had an essay um that went live on Newsweek in like, let's say July, I want to say. And it was essentially a national call for healing. I got tons of tweets like amplifying, celebrating. I got one email that was very much centered around racist rhetoric, and trying to like it's like this old school way of thinking, whether they recognize it's racist or not. But um, you know, Dr. King in his day, da, 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 like that kind of stuff. And it's like, man, don't be pulling the most like subdued version of Dr. King in order to speak to the
Yeah.
thing that you can most identify with. And then so I had to pull another doc. That was like probably the only time I felt like I needed to respond, because it was like I had to bring a Dr. King quote that was essentially talking about how rioting and protesting is a direct result of what is happening to the communities that are rioting and protesting.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so, but generally, man, I avoid trolls because I recognize that there's a lack of something or a need for something happening in that interaction that I don't want to feed into
Mm.
because they're not looking for a resolution. So I don't. This is why when I see like colleagues of mine, friends of mine, activist friends of mine, like trying to argue with a Trump or a Tea Party or whatever, like that's not a conversation because that person on the other side of it generally is not looking to have some level of impactful convo. They're trying to instigate something or they're
Mm.
trying to prove wrong. And for me,
Yeah.
like I'm not trying to debate about something. I'm trying to have a reasonable conversation that can help liberate all of us.
Yeah.
That's the work I'm invested in, you know?
Yeah. Um, what about, I'm kind of touched on it a moment ago, but what, I asked sort of what's been working, but I wonder in terms of self-care, or just some of your routines and rhythms recently, that is there
Yeah.
anything that might surprise people or that you might want to offer or share?
Um, well, I mean, I don't know if this will surprise people, but like voice notes. Like I'm a huge voice note leaver. Like even yesterday, I left like about 8 or 9 voice notes to like 8 or 9 different people, just to kind of remind people that I love them, that I care about them, that they matter. And I think some of that, if I'm being fair, is because I don't really want to have a conversation. You know, it's like it's because there's certain things. That's why I love voice notes because there are certain things I don't need to have a back and forth about.
Yeah.
I just need to know that you're loved and that you're seen. But I'm in the middle of a walk, which walking is part of my self care. Like I love the shit out of walking. I walk everywhere. Um, but like if I'm walking and someone comes to mind, what the practice that I'm trying to lean more into is to do something about it. You know, like send a voice note, send a text. Like for me, that's actually my self care. I get fed when other people are being fed. I get that's what thrills me, and so I try to I try to incorporate that as much as possible. You know, um, that reading. You know, like let me see, because I'm right next to my bookcase. So here we go. So Adrienne Marie Brown, Pleasure Activism. I would recommend everyone read this because
I
this
like
is
that.
really about, yeah, it's the politics of feeling good, right? And I mean, granted, Adrienne Marie Brown is very using a lot of black feminist rhetoric and black femme rhetoric, but I think it's a value to everyone. The conversation that she's having is really talking about using our pleasure and finding what makes us feel good in order to be good for the world and do social good within that. So like trying to read as much as possible, you know, because I with me not being on the train as much to get to and fro, I have to make time to read. Like that used to be my reading time, and so I think we're kind of at this point in the pandemic where we're kind of settling into whatever routine, you know. And I think part of my self care, I think, and I'm glad you asked this question, it has been about trying to give myself as much grace as possible. I think it's easy to forget while we're in the midst of the pandemic that we're in a pandemic and that people have been suffering from loss, people are grieving, people are losing jobs, family members are losing jobs, lives are being lost. Like, how do we, all of this is so heavy. And if we're not giving ourselves grace to recognize, oh, I'm feeling down today, there's a lot of reasons why.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, there's
Yeah.
an ample amount of reasons as to why we're not feeling up to snub or we're not where spiritually where we want to be for that day. And for me, it's work to give myself grace to recognize there's a lot of other things happening that are adding to these feelings that I have yet to really understand, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but doing that has allowed me, I think, to be able to feel more freer when I'm moving about in the world, I think.
Mm. I got two pop culture questions, one of which you already know. The other one's a surprise. I wonder, did you watch I May Destroy You?
mm, mm, mm. Bruh. Bruh. Michaela Cole, I tweeted the other day, like, when I grow up, I want to be Michaela Cole. Amazing show. Amazing. And I mean, not to like toot horns, but, you know, toot. I was like, HBO had an influencer campaign that I was a part of for the
Oh,
initial,
I didn't
yeah,
know
for
that.
the launch of the show. So myself and a lot of other amazingly dope Black influencers and creators are kind of part of these conversations, and I think it really, I think, it helps set the tone for the show for those who are bearing witness to it, but it also, for me, from a strategic influencer marketing standpoint, I think it also kind of showcased what and how what we should be doing when we're dealing with sensitive topics.
Mm.
Like they had panel conversations, they like healing circles. There were a whole program dedicated to the launch of this that was very much leaning into not just the star power of the show, but how are people going to be dealing with the content within this show after they view it.
Yeah.
It was super powerful stuff, but I absolutely loved that show.
I wonder, because you shared a little bit, you just kind of mentioned some of the painful things you've experienced, and so was it uniquely hard for you to watch at times?
No, and that's I think trigger gets overused to a certain degree. I think there are certain things that might bother us. I do think there's a lot of things that do trigger us. I tend to be less triggered or activated by things in general, to be
Mm.
fair, and that's a whole nother conversation we can have, because I don't know why that is, but like I feel things, which is why I think I don't struggle being an empath,
Mm.
because I feel things, but I don't attach myself to those feelings. So I'm watching the show, and I'm more watching the show and being entertained, and also being having these questions with my partner about the show, but not I'm not watching the show and having to turn away. I'm not
Mm.
watching the show and having to feel like, oh, wait, let's stop. I need to take a breath. Granted, I know a lot of folks who did. You
Yeah.
know, I'm very fortunate to be wired in a different way, honestly, where it doesn't. I can watch things like sexual trauma. I can watch violence against Black bodies and not feel, and not feel the direct impact of it in that way. I think if anything, that energy winds up getting channeled into my work
Yeah.
more than anything else.
And I'm glad I'm glad you loved it. I'm glad they reached out to you. Thanks for sharing that. I was honored that you kind of said, "Hey, I'm good with whatever you want to talk about." And I had this question in mind, and I wasn't sure if it was awkward or silly.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you about the death of Chadwick Boseman. And I think I'm aware there's a part of me that's like, hey, my Black friend, I'm going to ask him.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you being open to it. And I just wonder um, what it's been like to process his death and this shocking news.
Well, I think this is twofold, and I think I want to kind of unpack what you just said too, because discernment is a very big key, and I'm going to try to make this brief because this is going to segue into that. But there was a conversation that was happening on Twitter with a white follower friend of mine who commented under a post about, like, there was like some tweets I had sent about New York City, and there was another white woman who had kind of commented, not a correction, not even about New York City. It was about actually Boseman, and she had commented about, because I made a declaration like, listen, Black men get your colonoscopies, like it is important. You can advocate for that. And she kind of quote tweeted and auto corrected and said men, right? My white friend then came along and responded to that tweet. A few Black folks saw that tweet and assumed that my friend was calling me out instead of the other white woman,
Mm.
whatever. And I say discernment because I know who this person is. So, for me, it was very easy to read and know that she was talking and trying to defend me from a person who was on the outside, who might already have, who's already been frustrated with the lack of white allyship, right? You're seeing this from the outside and going, I'm gonna check this, right? And I think a lot of that is because of the tensions. And so for me, you asking me that question, knowing that you're a friend and also that you care, my immediate thought doesn't go, oh man, Jamie about to ask the black friend that he has is Black question. I'm recognizing there's the other side of that, which is I am a friend who cares about my Black friend, who recognizes my Black friend is Black. And so he might possibly be affected by this thing. So I want to have a conversation about it. Two very different energies, and I think, to be fair, it takes a lot of work for an individual who suffered through trauma to get to that place, right? And specifically when we think of the Black community. But for me, that's the goal,
Man.
like to get here, and then we can have a conversation. If that person is trying to do something that pigeonholes us, I can then have that conversation after.
Mm.
Uh, all that to say, I told you, like it came up in therapy. It was wild. It was like, because part of it for me is like I'm 37. You know, Chadwick was diagnosed with prostate cancer at 39, stage 3, mind you. So who knows if he had gotten tested beforehand? I don't know. To die at 43, it's a lot. You know, for me as a creative artist, and me as a person who also viewed Chadwick's career and said, "Oh wow, this person is this person is showing up in a way that I admire as like as an artist, but then also he's kind of like a late bloomer, you know, like Chadwick, like when he was in 42 playing Jackie Robinson, Chadwick was maybe like 35.
Yeah.
That's not Hollywood normal standards. But then I think about the Toni Morrisons of the world who didn't publish a Blue Eye until she was 39. You know, like it's one of those things where for me it was like, man, I looked at him as sort of the beacon of it can happen later. You know, it can happen later. And so what I've appreciated, and it's I sometimes feel it's weird to say something say appreciate when we're talking about the loss of life, but to see community come together in celebration, you know, and I think and it's something like Kayla was talking about this somewhat, and it's something that spoke to me because I think about the grieving process, right? And how it's not linear, but then two, I don't think we we have enough conversations about death, about dying, you
Yeah.
know, and how scary it is for some. Like I benefited, I think, greatly. My mother has been having conversations with myself and my siblings about her passing since I was like 5.
Mm.
Like I knew, and it wasn't like in a dreary, gruesome way. It was very matter of factly and loving. Like, hey, I'm not going to be here forever. Here's where my paperwork is. Here's how my will is broken out. Here are the options. Like here are the insurance options. You know, like it for me it put into play the idea of talking about of death in a way that isn't so steeped in the fear and more of this is part of the process. And then so how do we engage with it in a way that's going to be wholesome, that's holistic, and that's loving? And I
Yeah.
think that's what this has afforded the opportunity for some of us to do. Like it's okay to grieve a celebrity
Yeah.
if you didn't, you know, like when Nipsey Hussle died, I cried.
Yeah.
I cried, man, because it was like he was a dad, he was a rapper, and honestly, I don't even know why else, but I felt like I saw a piece of myself in him. And so I boo-hoo, you know, and I think some of that we have to make that okay for folks to feel how they feel, when they feel, for who they feel,
Mm.
regardless of what the situation is, you know. But for Chadwick's passing, I think brought that home for me,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah. Thank you, man. So we got like 2 minutes, maybe less. Same one I closed Kayla's time with. I wonder if you could finish the sentence that relates to these words.
Yeah. Got the T-shirt. Oh, Jay got the T-shirt.
I'm living for it. Did you get yours yet, or are we over?
I did.
Okay.
I got the whole package. It
All
was
right.
beautiful.
Sweet.
Beautiful. I posted on my IG stories and everything.
All right. Good. Good.
Um, I am living for my daughters. I am living for my community. You know, like and I mean to be fair, I'm living for my mama. You know, like I'm not attached to anything. I try not to be for the most part. Um, but I am, I think, attached to the idea of liberation for my people. Um, yeah, yeah,
Love it, man.
yeah.
I like to push people for like any little things, like favorite food, just fun stuff you want to add to that list.
Favorite food. Well, so here's the thing. We trying to get our bodies right, man. So we've been on like a diet, kinda. I don't even call it a diet. We're just like eating better. You know what I'm saying? Because I love pork.
Yeah.
I love swine, but we cut it out. It's gone. You know, like really limiting red meat, bringing more fish into the diet, salads. You know, I generally don't. I mean, I'll eat greens, but I don't go for a salad. It's not what I'm gonna do. So, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, but I will say that there's a pizza. Um, there's a spot called Sarah Gina's in Brooklyn, and their pizza, man, like that's like our date night thing. Like when we have time, like every like 8 months, because baby, um, that's the place we go. Cause like the margarita pizza is off, it's chef's kiss. You
Yeah.
know, I go in and I get some push-ups on after, cause you know.
Oh man. Well, I love it. That I like that there's big and small things worth living for.
Yeah.
Well, Joel, thank you again, man. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your time and sharing your thoughts. And I really love that we get to do this.
Word.
Just want to remind everyone, if you want to learn about the campaign, it's not too late to get involved, worthlivingfor.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Kayla. Thank you again to Joel. And we'll see you down the road, man. Thank you for your friendship and support.
Likewise, brother. Much love to you, homie.
All right. Take care.
Peace.
Bye.